Most people eating bread every single morning have no idea what is actually in it. Not the preservatives, not the chemical dough conditioners, and not the weed killer. We tested 10 of the most popular bread brands in America, pulled them straight from grocery store shelves, and sent them to a certified lab. The results came back, and what was in that bread was not just flour, water, and yeast. One brand came back with over 1,000 parts per billion of glyphosate. That is the active chemical in Roundup weed killer. And here is the part that should make you angry. That brand had an organic label on the front. The one you paid extra for. The one you bought specifically because you thought you were making the safer choice. We are going through all 10 from concerning to genuinely shocking, and finishing with the 3 brands that came back completely clean. Let's get into it. Number 10. Wonder Bread Classic White. This is the one that built its name on softness. The balloon loaf. The bread every American kid grew up eating. And that nostalgia is exactly what it is counting on. Press a slice between your fingers. It compresses completely and springs back like a foam cushion. That behavior is not from good baking. It comes from a formulation built to survive weeks in distribution and still feel fresh on the shelf. Florida's Department of Health pulled Wonder Bread from grocery shelves in February 2026 and sent it to an independent lab. It came back at 86 parts per billion of glyphosate. The EPA will tell you that number is legal. And technically it is, but that legal ceiling was calculated for one chemical, in one food, for one healthy adult eating it in isolation. It was never designed to account for someone already getting glyphosate in their morning cereal, their lunchtime crackers, and now their dinner toast. Exposure stacks. The regulatory math never did. Beyond the glyphosate, read the ingredient label. High fructose corn syrup, calcium propionate, a preservative that peer-reviewed research has linked to behavioral changes in children. Datum, a chemically modified fat that strengthens industrial dough at scale. Sodium stearoyl lactylate, an emulsifier that keeps that engineered softness alive for weeks past any natural freshness window. Wonder Bread has been around since 1921. It has had more than a century to improve what goes into it. It chose shelf life instead. Number 9. Pepperidge Farm, Farmhouse White. The name is doing a lot of work here, farmhouse. The word alone pulls up an image of something slower, more intentional, closer to the earth. Warm kitchen, wooden counter, loaf cooling on a rack. That image is a marketing decision, not a sourcing one. Pepperidge Farm is owned by Campbell Soup Company. It runs as a division inside a multi-billion-dollar food conglomerate, whose core incentive is margin, not craft. Independent laboratory testing found glyphosate residues in Pepperidge Farm farmhouse bread at 96 parts per billion, higher than Wonder Bread, despite a price point that implies it belongs in a different category. Scan the ingredient list. Modified cornstarch, monoglycerides, soybean oil, calcium propionate. These are not farmhouse ingredients. They are industrial stabilizers and cost reducers dressed up in linen packaging. The farmhouse line launched specifically because research showed consumers were willing to pay more for bread that looked and felt artisan. The premium was priced in. The sourcing was not upgraded to match it. You are paying for the aesthetic. The bread inside the bag was built on the same industrial logic as everything below it on this list. Number 8. Sara Lee Soft and Smooth. Sara Lee is one of the most recognized names in American grocery. Decades of brand trust built into a single logo. That trust is the product now, because what is inside the bag does not justify the loyalty. Sara Lee is owned by Grupo Bimbo, the Mexican multinational that controls a larger share of the American bread aisle than most shoppers realize. Bimbo also owns Oro-Wheat, Arnold, Thomas English Muffins, Entenmann's, and Ballpark. The consolidation matters because when one industrial parent company runs all of those brands, the supply chain follows. Same flour sourcing networks, same wheat broker relationships, same pre-harvest treated grain flowing through the same processing system, just packaged under different names at different price points. Independent testing on Sara Lee Soft and Smooth found glyphosate at 118 parts per billion. The ingredient panel includes high fructose corn syrup, calcium propionate, datem, and sodium stearoyl lactylate. The softness is not freshness, it is a preservation formula. And because Bimbo does not publish batch-level glyphosate testing on its brands, you have no way of knowing whether that number has changed since the last independent test, or whether it has gotten worse. Number 7. Nature's Own Butter Bread, The name implies something wholesome, natural, the kind of bread that belongs on a table with real food. Florida's Department of Health tested Nature's Own butter bread in February 2026. The result was 190 parts per billion of glyphosate. Their perfectly crafted white came back at 132. Nature's Own is made by Flowers Foods, one of the 5 largest bread companies in America. $5 billion in annual revenue. They know exactly what is in their wheat and exactly where it was treated. The ingredient label lists calcium propionate, datum, sodium stearoyl lactylate, and monoglycerides. In 2025, a video spread widely online showing someone filling a single slice of Nature's Own with water, wringing it out completely, and watching it spring back to its original shape without tearing. That is not bread behavior. That is an engineered sponge shaped like a loaf. In July 2025, a class action lawsuit was filed in California federal court, alleging that Flowers Foods falsely markets certain Nature's Own products as containing no artificial preservatives, while ascorbic acid appears on the ingredient label. Flowers denied the allegations. At $5 billion in annual revenue, sourcing cleaner grain is not a financial impossibility. It compresses the margin, and margin is what gets protected. Number 6. Arnold Organic. Arnold has been on American shelves since 1940. When the organic line launched, health-conscious shoppers saw it as the brand finally living up to its name. Legacy reputation, USDA organic seal on the front, whole grains listed first. The combination signals trust without inviting further questions. Arnold is owned by Bimbo Bakeries USA. Same parent company as Sara Lee. Same $22 billion industrial operation. Here is the specific problem. No publicly available independent glyphosate test on Arnold Organic has been published in the past 3 years. The USDA organic certification verifies that the producer did not intentionally apply glyphosate. It does not verify that none arrived from neighboring conventional farms through drift contamination. Herbicide mist does not stop at fence lines. It travels. Drift testing is not required. Arnold does not publish it. You are buying a certification that covers the intention, not the result. For a brand charging a premium on the promise of organic sourcing, the gap between those two things is the entire point. Number 5. Market Pantry Organic. This one is the Target house brand, and it surprises people, because Target spent years positioning itself as the cleaner, more intentional retailer. Better design, more considered sourcing, the store young families choose because it just feels different. Market Pantry whole wheat sandwich bread carries a USDA organic seal. Independent laboratory testing found 348 parts per billion of glyphosate in it, higher than Wonder Bread, higher than Nature's Own. An organic loaf outscoring conventional bread in contamination. Here is how that happens. Drift contamination. When a conventional farm adjacent to an organic operation sprays herbicide, the chemical does not stop at the property line, it moves. The certification verifies intent. It does not test the result. A parent reaches for this loaf specifically to protect their children. They pay the premium. They see the seal. The contamination is also real. The law that would require disclosure of the gap between the two simply does not exist. Target generates hundreds of billions in revenue. If they were testing their organic bread at the batch level and publishing those results, they would say so. They do not say so. Number 4. Great Value Whole Wheat. This is the budget one. The one families grab when they are trying to stretch the grocery bill. That reasoning is completely sound. Walmart offers the lowest prices in American retail. The problem is what sits behind that price. Walmart is the largest retail corporation on earth. They do not have fishing vessels or grain fields. They have supply contracts. Those contracts go to whoever can deliver at the lowest cost per unit, while meeting the minimum legal threshold for sale. The Detox Project and the Environmental Working Group found 340 parts per billion of glyphosate in Great Value whole wheat through independent laboratory testing. The manufacturer producing Great Value bread this quarter may not be the same manufacturer producing it next quarter. The contract rotates on price. When it rotates, the sourcing changes, the facility changes, and the glyphosate testing standards of whoever won the latest bid become the effective standards of the loaf you are currently holding. The label stays the same. Everything behind it can change, with zero visible signal to the person buying it. Walmart generated over $700 billion in revenue last year. Sourcing cleaner grain is not a financial constraint at that scale. It is a margin decision. The 80 cents you saved came with something extra that was never on the label. Number 3. Oro Wheat Organic. Two families started baking bread in Los Angeles in 1932. For decades, it was a genuine regional institution. Family-owned, California-made, quality-focused. In 2009, Grupo Bimbo acquired it. Since then, Bimbo also absorbed Arnold, Sara Lee, Entenmann's, Thomas, and dozens more. One multinational now controls what most shoppers still believe are independent competing brands. When Bimbo absorbs a brand, the supply chain follows. The Environmental Working Group reported 70 parts per billion of glyphosate in Oro Wheat whole grains, 100% whole wheat in 2018. Bimbo reformulated certain products after those results went public. There has been no publicly available independent glyphosate testing on Oro Wheat Organic since. The last number on record is still 70 parts per billion from 2018. Bimbo generates $22 billion in annual revenue. If they are testing every batch and the results are clean, they have not published them. Longtime customers describe the pre-acquisition bread as denser, grainier, more varied in texture. What is on shelves today is uniform, soft, and engineered to hold that softness across a long retail window. You are paying for the logo. Everything that earned it was replaced years ago. Number 2. Dave's Killer Bread. This is the one that markets itself on redemption. The branding is built around second chances, purpose, organic grain, and the idea that bread can be better. And for a window of time, it actually was. Dave's Killer Bread was founded in Oregon. Family-owned, genuinely different in sourcing and process. Then in 2015, Flowers Foods, the same company behind Nature's Own, acquired it for $275 million. The organic certification stayed. The marketing story stayed. The ownership structure changed entirely. Independent testing conducted after the acquisition found glyphosate residues in Dave's Killer Bread products. The exact levels vary by product line and testing cycle, but the pattern across Flowers Foods brands in independent testing has been consistent. Organic does not mean tested. It means the producer did not intentionally spray. The neighboring field may have. And Flowers Foods does not publish batch-level residue testing on Dave's Killer Bread. The price is premium. The testing transparency is not. The redemption story is powerful marketing. What it is not is a supply chain guarantee. Number 1. Whole Foods 365 Organic Whole Wheat. This is the one that should make you the most angry. If any brand on this list had both the resources and the stated mission to get this right, it is this one. Whole Foods built its entire identity around refusing to compromise on what goes into food. It charges prices that reflect that promise. It attracts customers who chose it specifically because they trust the standard. Florida's Department of Health tested Whole Foods 365 Organic Whole Wheat Bread in February 2026. The result came back at 1,040 parts per billion of glyphosate, one of the highest levels ever recorded in a packaged consumer bread in independent testing. Let that number settle. Not 86, not 190, 1,040. In a bread with an organic label, sold in a store that built its brand on the claim that it is different. The 365 house brand is positioned as Whole Foods' own promise to its customer. It carries the USDA organic seal. It tests above conventional store brands in glyphosate contamination. Whole Foods was acquired by Amazon in 2017 for nearly $14 billion. Amazon is the second largest company in the world. If the retailer that built its entire reputation on refusing to compromise cannot keep its own bread clean, what does that tell you about everything else in the aisle? Now that you know what to avoid, here are the 3 that actually held up. These are not consolation picks. They are brands that test their products, publish the results, and source their grain differently from the ground up. Best option number 3. Food for Life. Ezekiel 4:9. There is no flour in Ezekiel bread. None. Food for Life sprouts 6 organic whole grains and legumes, wheat, barley, millet, lentils, soybeans, and spelt, then bakes them slowly at controlled temperatures to preserve nutritional density. This is not a reformulated industrial loaf with better marketing. It is a fundamentally different process. Food for Life carries the bio-checked non-glyphosate certified seal. This certification does not verify a process, it verifies a result. Glyphosate residues in the finished product are undetectable at the laboratory's detection limit. That is the standard every brand on the avoid list should be held to, and is not. Ezekiel bread scores approximately 36 on the glycemic index. White bread typically scores 70 or higher. For anyone managing blood sugar, that is a meaningful difference. The ingredient list has 11 items, all recognizable as food. No added sugar, no preservatives, no dough conditioners. Food for Life has been family-owned and baking in California since 1964. Look for it in the freezer section, not the bread aisle. Without preservatives, this loaf molds at room temperature. That is not a flaw. That is proof you are holding actual food. Best option number 2. 1 Degree Organics. 1 Degree does something almost no other bread brand in America bothers to do. They publish the farm source for every single ingredient. Scan the QR code on the bag and trace the wheat back to the specific field where it was grown. Not the country, not the region, the farm. 1 Degree carries the biochecked, non-glyphosate certified seal, and the company submits random product samples to accredited third-party laboratories every month. No regulation requires this. No law demands it. They do it because testing the product and publishing the results is the only way to actually prove what you are selling. The ingredient list is organic sprouted whole wheat, water, organic whole grain oats, organic cane sugar, yeast, sea salt, organic cultured wheat. That is everything. No datum, no calcium sulfate, no monoglycerides. Open a bag and the grain smell hits you immediately. The texture pulls apart instead of compressing and springing back. It tears. It behaves like something baked, not engineered. Distribution is still limited. You may need a natural grocery store or a direct order. That inconvenience is real. It is also what happens when a brand has not handed its supply chain to a $5 billion industrial operator. Best option number 1. Silver Hills Sprouted Bakery. If Ezekiel's density is too much of a texture adjustment, or you want a clean everyday sandwich loaf you do not have to think twice about, Silver Hills is the most practical recommendation on this entire list. Silver Hills is a Canadian family-owned company. Every product carries the biochecked non-glyphosate certified seal, with residues verified below laboratory detection limits on an ongoing basis. When the World Health Organization's International Agency for Research on Cancer classified glyphosate as probably carcinogenic to humans in 2015, Silver Hills publicly stated that classification shaped their sourcing standards. That is a company responding to evidence rather than lobbying against it. Their loaves deliver fiber, whole grains, and real protein per serving. The full lineup is plant-based, nut-free, non-GMO verified, and certified vegan. In the United States, available at Sprouts, Whole Foods, and natural grocery chains. Every batch tested, every result verified. No corporate parent running a margin calculation that overrides the sourcing standard. Reviewers consistently place Silver Hills among the best sprouted grain breads available. The texture is hearty but soft enough for a sandwich straight from the bag. The most approachable clean option for anyone making the switch without wanting to rethink what bread should feel like. Here is the one rule worth keeping before you go. Stop buying bread sold at room temperature with more than 5 ingredients on the label. That single rule removes almost every brand from the avoid list from your cart. No ownership research required. No lab data to memorize. In the store, flip the bag and count the ingredients. Real bread is flour, water, salt, yeast, and perhaps a small amount of healthy oil. 5 ingredients. Everything beyond that was added to extend the shelf life, simulate freshness, or reduce the sourcing cost. Look past the USDA organic seal. It verifies that glyphosate was not intentionally applied. It does not verify that glyphosate is not in the finished loaf. 2 certifications that require actual laboratory testing of the finished product are biochecked non-glyphosate certified and non-GMO project verified. One is a promise about the process. The other 2 are proof about the result. Bread that survives weeks at room temperature was built for the supply chain. Bread that hardens or molds in a few days was built for you. In the European Union, pre-harvest glyphosate application is heavily restricted. In the United States, it remains standard practice. The residues it leaves behind sit on shelves next to organic certifications that were never designed to catch them. The labels were built to earn your trust without earning it. Now you know how to see through them. If this changed how you look at the bread in your kitchen right now, passing it along to someone who buys these brands every week is the most useful thing you can do with it.